Megan going and grabbing her breakfast while Jevohn is saying something would be the ultimate.
Oh, I'm gonna attack her as soon as she gets back. I'm gonna attack.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us here at North Courts. We're gonna get right into it. Head to the line for three. First thing, Jevohn and I are in studio, but Megan is busy in quarantine. No time for the studio. But seriously though, big things for Megan. On March 24th, the Toronto Raptors will play the Denver Nuggets, and it will be the first time ever that the Raptors on-air broadcast will feature all women. On play-by-play, we've got our own North Court's own Megan McPeak alongside Kia Nurse. On the sidelines, we've got Kayla Gray, and in studio, we've got Kate Burness alongside Amy Audibert. Megan, this is a huge first. Obviously, you've accomplished so much to get to this point. What does it mean to you to be a part of this crew?
Well, first I want to thank you and Jevohn for the continued support. This is an amazing opportunity to be amongst those four other women. And when I look at and think back to my childhood, you guys know this, growing up in Canada, there were zero women or women of color, specifically for myself, that were covering sports and covering men's sports, and especially the NBA. So to look back at my childhood and think of that, and now for it to come full circle that I will be part of the first women's broadcast in not only the NBA, but as well too for the Raptors in Canada is quite amazing. And to think that when you think of Vivek, as you mentioned, the women that will be part of this, the actual in-game broadcast with the play-by-play, the analyst position, and the sideline position, it will all be three distinct women of color. That's something that I never had growing up. So the fact that myself, Kia, and Kayla can give that to little Black girls that look like us, that's a fantastic feeling for myself. And you guys know this, representation matters, and little girls will be able to see us doing what we do and might think that they can do it as well too. So the fact that I can have that impact and be part of it is really what it means to me.
You know what, Vivek, it's funny because the other day, I want to congratulate Megan. I sent her a text and I said, hey, when you're done with quarantine, I know she loves Starbucks. So I said, hey, let's go for coffee on me. My treat, because this is a milestone. She texted me back and said, Shep, you know what? I would love to, but I'm trying to keep a low profile until the game. I was like, whoa, Megan. I really was just thinking like, my friend, you were supposed to be my homie, and things have changed. How fast things have changed in just a week. This is crazy. But no,
First of all, Shep, stop lying. you know exactly why it was for.
You have to give these women their flowers and congratulate them. And I think, what, they've paved the way. They're changing the landscape now. And, the Raptors organization, hey, you guys are now trendsetters. But these women, are trailblazers.
Hey, Jevohn, if Megan is ducking you, I'm sure it's to prepare. Because I remember the first time I met Megan, it was at a Raptors 905 game. And I look over and she's got, she can correct me if I'm wrong. It was either file folders or like full out binders where she had information on the 905, the opponent, everything that she needed to know. And that was my first experience. That was the first time I was credentialed for any type of basketball game. And I'm looking at that and I'm saying, that's the level of prep I need. I gotta do some homework. So that was cool to see. So Megan, again, so glad to see the hard work paying off. Speaking of hard work paying off, we're gonna head to March Madness shortly, where this season has been a banner year for Canadians. Again, you've got over 150 Canadian men, over 100 Canadian women, and now you've got this moment where for the men, Jevohn, this March Madness is always a showcase event before the draft.
It's right before, not right before the draft, but I'm saying these teams, these GMs or NBA GMs or pro scouts abroad, they use that March Madness tournament to evaluate players. And I think that, it was a big hit last year, a big loss last year when we weren't able to have the NCAA tournament. It was unfortunate for a lot of those student athletes. But again, now this year going forward, you have that opportunity. I think, there's a difference between the women's tournament, compared to the men's tournament. The women's tournament, it's a quick turnaround. These women go into the tournament, and maybe the following week they're on their flight to their respective professional teams, because the draft is shortly after. I think, the teams and scouts use the women's regular season, NCAA regular season, to really have that time to evaluate players, character, skill level development, and so forth. Whereas on the men's side, a lot of that work is done in that tournament. And, it's, in some cases it's unfortunate, but then you have the cases where, guys have a really good tournament and now they're on the radar.
Yeah, Megan, obviously last year was an exception where you had the draft time change and everything because of the COVID pandemic. But outside of that, you've got the WNBA draft coming up right after this. So how does that change the approach for the women?
Yeah, as Jevohn mentioned with the women's tournament, it's much different in the quick turnaround when it comes to these women preparing to go to their professional teams, whether it's overseas or hoping to get drafted in the WNBA. And you look at the way it's set up for the men's side, as Jevohn mentioned too, the tournament can be a catapult for some of these players. It can either take you from being a fringe lottery pick or thrust you into being a lottery pick, which, as we all know, completely changes the financial situation for you as well too, with how much you could be making. When you look at the women's tournament and what it does is the women's side as well too, especially the WNBA, they don't have the typical draft workouts and interviews the way that they do it for the NBA. They don't have players coming in market and doing things like that. So you look at the WNBA specifically, and what they do is they have a lot of their meetings with players as they prepare for the draft via Zoom and via FaceTime. So they're used to having to do what we're doing now with the pandemic and utilizing technology. I would like to see it where they could have a week or two off between final game in the tournament and actually getting drafted, so you can maybe have some, in-market workouts and stuff like that. But as well too, the women's side is much different than what we see on the men's side.
You know what, Megan? I actually think that the women's side is a bit more thorough. In the sense, because they use the full season. They use the length of the season to go through the process, the character checks, and identify, the players and really get to evaluate them. Whereas, as much as it may seem rushed, they use the full length of that season. Whereas on the men's side, I think a lot is weighted on, how these athletes perform in the tournament, right? And that's why sometimes there's a bit more surprises in the NBA draft versus the WNBA.
Someone who's looking to party, hopefully at the end of this March Madness, you got Andrew Nembhard. He sat down with Jevohn Shepherd for an interview. Let's go check that out.
You guys have had like 26-0 run going into the NCAA tournament. That hasn't been done since 1976. What do you have to say about this team, and what's that experience been like for you?
It's been a great experience, honestly. Just coming from where I came from last year and not knowing if I was going to play this year, it was just a great opportunity for me to kind of get on the court and play with a great group of guys. And we just gel so well on and off the court. Mm-hmm. It's just been exciting to be a part of, honestly.
What's been, you obviously went from Florida last year, Gonzaga this year, and, what would be the main difference in this team right here?
Yeah, I think it's just our connectivity on the court and off the court. I think we got a group of very unselfish guys that just, we're looking at the bigger picture and just winning as a group. And I think every day we bring our own talents and it comes together as one, honestly.
It's funny because, you go from a situation where I'm sure you've started all your life, right? And, you come up with this conference sixth man of the year. How were you able to channel, what you've always done as a starter to, that guy coming off of the bench and still be effective, still have an impact on the game?
Yeah, I think my role in terms of minutes and everything was kind of similar, honestly, to a starting role. It's just kind of off the bench in a way that I think I could give a quick punch that we didn't have with the starting group. And I think just being as versatile as I am, playing a couple positions, I think it makes our team more versatile, more impactful.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because you're a part of a real big pool of Canadians. 150 Canadians, a record-setting number of Canadians playing in the NCAA. So I'm sure, there's every other game you're running and bumping into a Canadian that you've played with on the high school level or national team, whatever the case may be. Just talk about that and what that says for Canadian basketball on a whole.
Yeah, no, that's probably the most exciting part, playing against one of your mans that you played against when you were younger, for sure. But I think it just shows that Canada basketball is growing, and it's just the amount of talent we have is just increasing every year, and we're at the point where we're there. We're not just kind of competing to get there, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Have you played against anybody that you were like, this was a matchup that you wanted to see, that you were actually excited about going up against?
Definitely big Jaden Bidiaco. I mean, I played with him like my whole career growing up, and that's one of my best friends. So it was a fun matchup.
With that being said, you've played with the Canadian national team at different levels. In 2019, you actually had your debut at the senior men's national team level. What was that experience like? Because I know for me what it was like, but you made it a lot younger.
No, it was a great experience. All the old heads, they kind of just take me under their wing and kind of just, they just give me all that confidence to play on the court with them, and it was the best experience of my life. I love playing with the team and just getting all that knowledge and just enjoying my time.
So with that being said, we can count on you to see you a bit more with them, huh?
For sure. Definitely want to run that back.
My brother Andrew, I appreciate you for doing this. Good luck in the tournament. I want to see you guys, unless you guys bump into my Michigan Wolverines. Good luck the rest of the way and get the job done, man.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you.
Let's head to this episode's starting fives, and we've got all the men and women that you need to watch out for in the NCAA doing big things. We'll start with the women. As you can see, a lot of names in common, but let's go to Bryn Maskowicz. Megan, you picked her. I had Marissa Russell. They were obviously co-MVPs at the BioSteel game. What can you tell us about Bryn?
Yeah, she's a freshman with the UCLA Bruins, and that's a tough situation to be in when you look at the talent that this Bruin roster has and the talent they've had all season. So hasn't been able to have too much of an impact with the team this season. She's only appeared in 7 games. However, I can definitely see her having a much larger role with this team. But you look at these lists, and it's not just the people in the tournament, guys, as we know when we were putting it together, but it's also making sure that we keep an eye on the next crop of generation next season, and as well to the seniors in their professional careers.
I like, just like you said, Megan, it's players that are coming up, younger generation of freshmen, sophomores, just as much as the seniors that have had some impact. So I like, I'm looking at Letitia Amahir, and that's somebody that she gained stardom when she dunked the basketball as a female in high school. Now that went viral. Then ended up going down with a big knee injury, and I think this year she had a slow start because obviously she's just going to get back and get comfortable with her body again, and then go from there. I think the next couple of years are really when she's going to be able to shine, but that's somebody to look out for. Aaliyah Edwards, we know what she's done at UConn. 6th Woman of the Year, and I think with her she's a winner. And I have to share a quick story with her because her coach, her high school coach here at Crestwood Prep, told me that she was somebody that was cut from the the OBA to Ontario team, provincial team, the B team actually, worked her way up by grade 12. She was a part of the senior women's national team. Would run 5K runs, take a 5K jog in the morning just to get herself going before game days, which is something that just shows how much she puts into her craft. And then going from there, I have to go with Haley Brown, Michigan, a warm breeding like myself, so I bleed blue. Shayna Pennington
and a Hamilton native.
A Hamilton native. You guys have been doing okay with it. You guys have been producing some talent on the men's side and the women's side.
Looking over at the men, I want to shout out Quincy Guerrier out of Syracuse. I think he's been putting up some big numbers. He's basically double what he was doing in his first season, and I think it's really impressive that he's added that 3-point stroke as well. He only attempted 24 threes all of last season, and now he's up shooting over 3 threes a game, and he's shooting about 30%, so you'll continue to work on that. I think that's a real positive sign for him. Who's someone that you're looking at, Megan?
I got to go with the kid in Vanderbilt, Trey Thomas. I talked with one of his assistant coach, and all Canadians know head coach Jerry Stackhouse, formerly with the 905, and brought in a couple of his assistants there too to add to his coaching staff. But I had to ask, obviously, they aren't going to be dancing this year, which is really unfortunate. However, they really liked the progress from the team from the start of the season to the end of the season. They had a really rough start. They peaked at the right time. They ran into injuries, players going down, COVID, and then they finished the season really strong. But what they like about Trey Thomas, and I'm reading it directly from the message, is the shooter. But they really like his upside. He's a hard worker. And the biggest thing that I really liked that they said to me was he is a great kid.
Jevohn, how about you?
I'm gonna go with Fardaws Amiak, a guy that's the player of the year in his conference, defensive player of the year, and leads the NCAA in rebounds. So a guy from the West Coast out in Vancouver, we probably don't hear as much from him, but he's accomplished a lot. Marcus Carr, you can't say enough about him. We've seen what he's done with this Minnesota team. They won't be dancing this year, but he's led that team in steals, assists, and points, and he was just Mr. Clutch for them. So I think he's a guy that you really want to see what goes on for him going forward. Andrew Nembhard is another kid that we're going to get to see. I interviewed him early on today. Number 1 team, 26-0 going into the tournament, and he's really changed. Like, he's a guy that started his whole career and comes in as 6th man of the year in the conference. So you have to tip your hat there.
Can I also just make a disclaimer, Vivek? Because the last time we put out a list, we had a lot of fans in our mentions because there was some disappointment. So to the fans, it's going to be boring if we always give you the same 3 lists over and over. So we've got to have a little, differentiation. So if I might have a name that Jevohn doesn't have, it doesn't mean I don't think they're a great player, and vice versa. It just means that we don't want to have the same 5 names on the list, guys. Come on.
Or, Megan, they can throw their list in there.
Yeah, and it's
Don't
not
call us out if you
necessarily a
can't back
top
it up.
5 list, right? It's a 5 that sort of resonates with us. And the same way that there are 5 people who might catch our eye, there's 5 that might catch another person's eye. So let us know about it. The same way with this NCAA, let us know who's caught your eye on the men's and women's side, and hit us up with your list. That's gonna wrap it up for this episode. Thank you for watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks.